Okay, so first of all, thank you all for coming. What we're going to be doing is going over the next 6 weeks, and I'll be outlining exactly what it's going to include. So what I've called is Fueling Success. So a few of you guys may have done a program like this in the past. This is going to be a little bit different. There'll be elements that you've covered before. This time it's going to be in a lot more detail. There's a lot more education included this time around. So first, I just want to touch base on the logo. So you'll see here we've strength, nutrition, mindset. Over the last 10 years, I've developed them as the 3 core pillars of success in your fitness journey. So when you come to the gym, do your sessions, that's going to be taken care of in your strength work. You've got 2 aspects to that. So I kind of use this as a 3-point system, and I can put a client in a bracket there. And if I can get them to have all 3 points, I know they're going to be successful. So if you have your gym down, you're regularly attending, and you've got the strength side of it down, that's 1 point. If you're regularly attending and pushing yourself to the right intensity, you've got a half point from the mindset, because you can obviously show up to the gym, attend, and not push yourself, not work at the intensities, meaning you're going to back off a little bit in terms of results. So a lot of you guys will already have 1.5 down. Nutrition is an element in itself. It's why you're here today. It's obviously you guys are looking to solve that problem. It may not be an issue for you, but if you want to enhance it, improve it, make it better, this is your opportunity to do so. With the strength, it's more physical. With the nutrition, it is completely mind. It is a lot harder on that sense. So strength has the mindset element to it, but it's the physical effort that you'll put into the gym that'll obviously kick into it. Nutrition, the only physical element of that is the hunger, and it's not that bad. So it's all about the mind and mental. So we're going to really focus in on the mindset, the correct attitude to have towards this, and we're going to make sure you guys are in the right frame of mind for it. So first is the mindset. So when you go into nutrition, it's a thing where a lot of people have failed in the past. So, hey, Dooney, so you can take a seat anywhere here. So it's a thing people will try and fail, stop, start, and it's an all or nothing approach. So what I want you to do going into this is straight away off the bat is to use the approach of you are going to succeed. Any if, probably, try, hopefully, any of that, no, that's a big no-go. You will not last. It's not a hopefully, you can control it. It's about getting the right environment, the right mind going into it. All you're doing with a hopefully try, I think, is preempting your excuse to stop. So what I need you to have going into this is you've got 6 weeks. I want you to focus in on you can do this, you are going to do this, and that's where the commitment and prioritization comes in. So it's with anything, if you stay in your comfort zone, you will most likely not achieve your goal. So what we need to do is be a little bit more uncomfortable. There's going to be elements of this that are uncomfortable. So one excuse that holds most people back, I would say, is the biggest excuse that holds people back is they say, I'm too busy. So everyone in this room, if I was to sit down and ask you individually, are you busy? You would say yes, but half of you will succeed, half of you may not. So busy can't be an excuse in this. So it's about prioritizing. So you may have a busy life, you may have kids, job, everything along them lines, but if we don't prioritize it, it will fall down that ladder. So it's about saying for the next 6 weeks, I want you to say, this is my priority. Whatever I do, I'm going to make sure that I get my nutrition on point. It takes 5 minutes. So with your logs, it's 5 minutes of logging. Everybody will have the time to do that. It's really committing to it and giving yourself the best chance possible. So once we've developed the mindset to succeed, we then obviously prioritize and commit to it, and then we execute the plan. So I'm going to give you the plan. I can show you the way, but you are the guy, you have to follow it. You guys have to walk the path yourself on it. The key thing with the plan is I'm going to go over common mistakes and things that can happen along the way, but it will work. It's just about executing it. So if you do struggle at any point, there's always a reason behind it. I can help you. So the key thing is throughout the 6 weeks, if you aren't sticking to it and you're falling behind, let me know, reach out. I will help you. Treat nutrition a little bit differently. A lot of the time people have an all or nothing approach. So what that means is they'll be perfect up until a point, and then when it doesn't go their way, it goes to nothing. Treat it like an exam. If you went into an exam, you've got people who get A's, B's, C, D's, E's, and F's. You don't just go from A to F. You have to find somewhere in the brackets. You may have set like 5 out of the 6 weeks as an A, and then you might have 2 as a B and a C. It could be any way, but the more effort you make, the more you will get out of the plan. So just to go over that, what we always do is we revert the energy balance upon consistent results. So what that basically means is a result can be positive and negative. So if your objective, which most people's will be, is to lose weight, and let's say, for example, you are losing weight, that is your result. If you're not losing weight, that is also a result. And then obviously if you're gaining weight, that is also a result. I'm going to go over what the energy balance is and how we can constantly relate to that so we know where to go. So next is the accountability and transparency. So I will help you to the best of my ability, but if there's a situation where you aren't telling me what you're doing, it's going to be very difficult for me to help you. So I know that seems mad, but a lot of the time people they'll log the good and leave out the bad. If I can't see the bad, I can't start to help you fix it. I need to see everything. So whatever doesn't make it, I need to see it, because if it doesn't make it, it's most likely the reason that's stopping you from progressing, reaching your goal. You're making this effort for 6 weeks, so we really need to make sure everything is transparent. And if you don't tell me and I have to go look and try find it, I'm then going to have a conversation where I'm saying like, well, from what I can see, everything looks correct, but it's what I can't see is the issue, and that just holds you back. So really make sure everything is put in, the good and the bad. Then weight fluctuations. So this is a common thing, and it's something we're going to touch base on because I'm going to explain why your weight can fluctuate, so it doesn't get you down if a result doesn't go your way, if you've done the right steps. So let's just start with our energy balance. So this is the law. This is basically nothing can defeat this, no matter what. So if you have eaten more than you've burned, you're going to gain weight. If you eat the same as you burn, you're going to keep the weight the same. And obviously, if you eat less, you're going to lose weight. So anytime this happens for you, if your results means that your weight hasn't changed and you think, oh, well, this isn't working for me, it's not the number, it's what we're doing. So it's going to be our food log could be inaccurate. It'd be food that we're maybe not including. We're doing something wrong. So if your objective is to lose weight and you're not losing weight, it's not that the deficit isn't working for you. It's that we're not achieving the deficit. That's what we need to always revert back to this table. Whatever happens, this is exactly it. It's that simple. Now, there are elements that will affect this. So, for example, PCOS, thyroid issues, they are things that can affect this, but treat them as players in the game. They don't change the rules. They just make it a little bit harder. It's like an additional challenge that some people may have to suffer with, but it doesn't mean the rules change. This is exactly what we abide by. So what that brings us into then is the bit where I was talking about the transparency and the accountability. So when, let's say, for example, we have an issue, which can happen where somebody isn't getting the results that they want. This is the process I go through. So I'm going to review your logs, see what you've put out for me. If there's blank logs, straight away, that's the problem. If you aren't logging, then there's your issue straight away. And that's what we need to solve. Second part is I assess your results. So let's say, for example, I see your weigh-ins on a Wednesday and a Friday go well, but every time your weigh-in on a Monday, your weight spikes up. That means on the weekend, that's where your issue is a lot of the time. So it's very easy to identify issues when everything is there. But obviously, if I can't see it, I won't be able to help. I'll give you a verdict and feedback. I'll try my best to get you on track and on point. But there is always a route back. No matter what week it happens, if it's week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, I will always be able to help you if you reach out. But obviously, if we don't get a reach out, it's going to be very hard to assess and get back to you. So on the topic of weight fluctuations, so obviously weight, if your goal is to maintain your weight, to lose weight, whatever it is, you're going to have fluctuations. So the reason that can happen is timing. So if you weigh yourself after eating something, of course, you're going to be heavier. If you have a big meal on a Sunday night and it's still within your calories, but then you wake up the next day and you weigh yourself, you're most likely going to be heavier. That doesn't mean that your progress is lost. All that means is you've got food inside of you. You need to obviously go to the bathroom and then your weight will come down. So how we combat that is weighing on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we get an average across the week. So for example, if you're eating late, if you drink a pint of water or a liter of water at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, like I was saying, your weight can be up. Same on a Tuesday night. But if we have 3 metrics across the week, it gives us a better representation. And like I was saying, if we notice that Monday weight is up, Wednesday, Friday it goes down, and that cycle repeats, we know your weekend is causing your issues, that type of thing. So having 3 metrics is very important. You guys are going to log this on the app for me. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I expect to see your weight go in, because then when I'm making my assessment, I'll have exact data on where you are. I can help you along the way. So next, we look at the other metrics that we're going to use. So weight is a great one, but like I was saying, it can be unreliable and it doesn't tell the whole picture. So the analogy that I'm going to use to try get you guys to see the kind of vision that I'm looking for is, if I was to say to you, now the prices may be inaccurate on this, but if I was to say you're going to buy a house, and let's say we're in Glasnevin, you want to buy 2 houses, you've got 800,000 as your budget, and if I said to you there's 2 houses for 800,000 in Glasnevin, and if that was the only information I gave you, you wouldn't buy that house. Everyone would say you're mad to get that without seeing all these things. So treat that as your weight. If you only have one metric to look at, it's very hard to make a decision. The second thing I say to you then is, one of the houses is 2-bedroom, one of them is 3-bedroom. You've got a little bit more data. You can then make a better assessment. You could say, right, okay, I've got kids and maybe I want the house with 3-bed, or 2 beds is fine for me. But then lastly, if I was to then show you pictures of the house, one house is pink, it's got marble floors, other house has got black walls, wood, whatever one you can decide, then you've got a better picture of the overall aspect. So that's what I need to see for your guys' progress. So how we're going to do that is weight, measurements, pictures. So weight is going to tell me your overall results. Your measurements are going to tell me your body composition. So for example, if I have you guys now lifting weights 3 times a week, and let's say your weight moves down to a certain point, you guys are building muscle, you guys are changing your body composition. But if I can only see your weight, I have no idea and how you're changing your body composition. So an example of that would be, if I took my measurements and let's say my objective was to lose weight, I could measure across my chest, my shoulders, and if I see them measurements increasing, and I see my weight decreasing, then I can see I'm building some more muscle mass and I'm decreasing on my body fat percentage around my gut. Second part, then the pictures will tell the picture of that, literally. So we'll be able to see start, middle, end. We'll be able to see how we look at the beginning, middle, and end. So try to look at these. The big problem people have with progress pictures is they think it's more from a vanity standpoint. They think, oh, I don't want to look at myself like this. I don't want to look at that. It's not about that. It's about looking and understanding your body composition, because if we constantly refer things to weight, you will always value where you are with your weight. So the objective here is to try to get you to have a full understanding of your body composition. You're lifting weights consistently. Why wouldn't we track that and measure and see how you're doing? If we see increases in quad measurements and we see decreases in waist measurements, we can very clearly see, okay, you've got more muscle mass in your legs, decreased body fat percentage. It gives us metrics to play with. It gives us things to see the data and gives us an overall assessment of your project. Because let's say, for example, a member joins, they're 80 kg on day one. A year later, they're 80 kg. Does that mean they look exactly the same? They're going to be a lot different. They've lifted weights for a year, so they're going to have a different body composition completely. The weight doesn't tell the full story. It just gives me one idea of how that goes. So these guys, I'll send you out guides on how we're going to do that correctly. It's going to be new to a lot of you. Some of you have done it before, but it is a really helpful metric and it's a really good measure of progress. And try always look at it from the sense of, if it's something that you find uncomfortable, then challenge yourself and say, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more uncomfortable here. I will do this, but in the next few weeks, I'm now not assessing myself in the sense of, oh, like I don't like that picture. It's more, I can start to see progress. I can start to build with that, and we know where we're going. So all of that is more on the result side of things. That's how I'll be able to measure your progress. Is how I'll be able to see how you're doing. Now we're going to focus on the education. So every week I'm going to give you guys a different topic to work on. The objective here is to get you results, but then also teach you along the way. The more you know, the better you guys are going to do. And the more education I can give you, the more buy-in it'll be. Because if you understand why you do something, you're far more inclined to keep doing it. And that's obviously what we're trying to achieve here. So again, this might seem basic for you guys that know it already, but if you don't, you have macro and micronutrients. So this is basically just putting things into categories. So macronutrients are basically the more volume of your food. So that's going to be your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So every week I'll give you educational points, but we're going to delve into what are carbohydrates, what do they do? What is protein, what does it do? What are fats, what do they do? But it's more than just a protein, carb, and fat. There's different types, which we'll obviously go into and I'll go on to. But for example, just because something fits into a carbohydrate, it doesn't necessarily mean they're all the same. An easy example that be if a genre of movies, if we have horror movies, you can have a horror movie about ghosts, you can have a horror movie about a serial killer. They're two completely different things, but within the same genre. Carbs, proteins, fats all have different elements to them. Micronutrients might seem a little bit more technical, but that's your vitamins and minerals. So you're consuming them every day. Every food will contain somewhat amount of them, but these are things that basically improve bodily function. You'll notice things like brain fog. You'll have like reduced brain fog, better sleep, improved recovery, enhanced mood. All of these things are elements that you don't really notice because you're lacking. But when you start to have them, you start to notice the big benefits. You start to feel a bit better in yourself, and it will obviously aid your journey in the gym as well. So next, we're going to move into quality and function. So here we have two carbohydrates, kind of like I was talking about there. These both fall under the bracket of carbohydrates, but they are different. So we have 100 grams of sweet potato and 100 grams of a scone. So what do we get out of both of them? There's an element, and both of them do belong in the diet at some point, but obviously sweet potato, right, we get good element of fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, and antioxidants. All of these things are great. What do we get out of the scone? It's nice, okay? So what I want you guys to understand is we eat for function and then enjoyment second. What happens a lot of the time is enjoyment comes first and function comes second. When that happens, you get increased body fat, decreased body function, and decreased mood, decreased energy, a lot of negative aspects on the body. Enjoyment absolutely belongs in the diet. Without it, you won't succeed. You need to have a balanced approach. You're not just going to eliminate the foods that you enjoy. If you enjoy something, make sure you include it. But it's about balance. If you've too much of one, you're going to fall out. If you've too much of the other, you're obviously going to lack on the results side of things. So it's important that everything has a value, but in balance. Next, this one's a little bit of a different point in the sense of what do they do? So if, for example, if I look at 100 grams of oats, that's called a complex carbohydrate. That means it's a double molecule. It basically means that your body finds it harder to break that down. It takes longer. So when it takes longer to break it down, it can only release it in short bouts to the system. So for example, if I needed to go to a busy work day and I said, I've got meetings all day, I'm not going to get a chance to eat lunch, I'm going to finish at 5 o'clock. Am I going to go, right, let me get something that's really easy to digest, it's going to give me a boost of energy at the start of the day and then just tank me? Or am I going to get something that's going to give me a slow release across the day? It's about choosing your foods correctly. And the better we can get at doing that, the easier this will become. 100 grams of jellies, they're simple carbohydrates. I picked them because it's the easiest option. They basically will get into your system like that, give you energy like that, but then it'll also go like that. So again, they can come into the diet. So an example, well, it may not be jellies, but fruit. So let's say, for example, you have oats at the start of the day and it gives you a slow release of energy. But then let's say you're training in an hour is the oats going to get into your system? Is it going to give you enough energy in that hour? Maybe not. But if I change that to apples, bananas, oranges, jellies, anything like that, it's going to give you a little boost of energy. But having this on an empty stomach with no reliance, no food before, is going to be a little bit harder. If we have the oats at the start of the day, we can use the simple carbohydrate to spike that up a little bit more rather than starting from the bottom. So it's about understanding the function of what a carb and what that does to your body. And the more we do that, the easier the task becomes. So this seems a bit more technical than it is. So absorption and bioavailability. Bioavailability is like a fancy way of saying how ready and available it is to the body. So what that means is, so I used iron as an example here. This is for everything, but iron is something that people are deficient in. So if I got 5 milligrams of iron from steak or chickpeas, that does not mean I got 5 milligrams of iron. So there's a different absorption rate that your body will come to. So if we see here, high absorption rate due to bioavailability with the steak and poor due to the chickpeas. So that basically means it's easier to consume for your body. It's easier for your body to absorb and use straight away. So you'll see that 15 to 35% is absorbed from steak, or 2 to 20% absorbed from chickpeas. I'll go on to that in a second. This comes to what they are: heme iron and non-heme iron. So basically, that is just a fancy way of saying it has a bonding partner. And the hemoglobin and myoglobin, they're both proteins that bond. And then on the other side, the plant-based, it doesn't have anything to bond to. So it's not absorbing into the body. So the reason I'm showing you guys this is because people will say, oh, I'm low in iron, and then they'll just go and only have chickpeas, for example, and then they're going to really struggle. But there is ways around it. So the reason why that range is so big, 2 to 20%, is you can add a binding product to that. So if you add something with vitamin C alongside a plant-based piece of iron, you will then get enhanced iron. So example of that could be broccoli, potato, something along them lines. But if we give it a binding product, it can then get into your system a little bit better. But again, this might seem technical, but I'm showing you this because just because you see something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you the same results. So if we are low in iron, it's something that we can then tackle and I can help you with and balance it out. So iron is a good example of it in terms of a lot of people don't get enough, but take into account the source is important and the quality is important. And that goes for every nutrient, like carbs, proteins, fats, along the board. Next is absorption. So this one is something that I would always say to a lot of you guys. It may have sounded like a broken record saying it, but I'm going to give you some data to show exactly why. So eating after the gym is extremely important for a couple of reasons. Basically, the simple answer to that is if you look at your body, you've just trained, your body is then going to say, I need to now repair and need to get more energy in again because I've just used a lot of fuel and I'm also broken down. So when you're lifting the weights, you're breaking down the muscle tissue. Your body then has to go repair that. So this study took 2 groups, 20 people in each group, and they all trained 3 times a week, kind of like you guys are doing in the gym. The people who had the post-workout meal, they had a 50 to 80% increase in muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is simply just the process of building muscle. That's all that is. It's basically your body repairing the muscle tissue. So a 50 to 80% increase in the increase of building and repairing the muscle is massive. That's huge. Then we look at 8.5% increase in muscle size versus 3.5%. These guys were doing exactly the same thing. The guys who were eating after the gym nearly got double the result in muscle mass increase, which is huge. Like that marker is so big. Imagine if you think about that in a time perspective. If you guys did a 12-week program and half the group were getting double the benefit, you're working 24 weeks to everybody else's 12, just from a nutritional standpoint, even more so than that. Now, this number here, they had a 25 kg increase in their one rep max, and then the other group had 15. So they also got stronger. They had more enhanced performance. These numbers are quite big. So the reason you're seeing 25 and 15, you guys are a lot more experienced in that. You're not going to see increases like that because you basically, the stronger you get, the harder the increases come. So for example, if I was to start the gym fresh tomorrow and I was bench pressing 20 kg, it's a lot easier for me to go from 20 to 30 kg than it is to go from 100 to 110. The markers get harder as you go through. So these guys were all beginners. That's why you've seen bigger increases there. But the stats still matter. So for you guys, it's still important. You're going to get stronger by having it. And then faster glycogen replenishment. So glycogen is basically stored energy. So that's what your body does when it has food that it doesn't need to use right now. It'll store it as energy basically in the body called glycogen. And then it replenishes that a lot easier, which means it aids your recovery, meaning then you can perform better in the following sessions, meaning that you're not as sore for long. So like these benefits are insane. Like there's no program that's going to enhance you that much. Like that is an absolute must. So the 30 to 60 minute window after you train is very important. If you can start to eat food after that. So an example of that doesn't necessarily have to be a big meal. It's after the gym, you say, right, what can I do? So if I train in the evening, it could be having your dinner after, as soon as possible. If you can't do that, have a small replacement. So something simple. You could have 150 grams of Greek yogurt with some fruit. The fruit can act as the glycogen replenishment, the carbohydrate to replace the energy, and then the Greek yogurt can act as the protein replacement, build up the muscle mass, and get you going again. So something simple. If you're in the morning, you can also, again, do something along them lines, but try to always have something ready to go if it's not going to be your bigger meal. So then into that topic of fueling, workouts and recovery, if we look at the pre-workout, so again, a simple analogy on this, I like to use analogies because it kind of puts a perspective on it. But if you have two people going for an interview for a job, both of them, let's say, are excellent accountants, they're going for a job in accounting. If one of them does research on the company, does research on what they're doing, research on their role, versus the other one doing nothing, it doesn't mean doing nothing isn't going to get you the job. But if you have more time to prep and you do a little bit more prep, you're going to get a better result most of the time. So with pre-workout, you have a goal, you want more energy. It's very simple. Timing is the next perspective. So let's just say your window of time, you won't get a chance to eat until an hour before the gym. The type of food you're going to choose is different to if you had to eat 2 hours before the gym. Because what we want is if we eat too soon, we'll peak and then crash, and the effect is null and void. Or if we eat at the right time, you come into the gym, you get the hit of energy, you use it, and then you start to crash after, and then you replenish and recover. So the timing and the type is very important. You need to know what you're trying to eat, what your goal is, and how you're doing it. The duration comes into it. For you guys, for the gym, it's always going to be an hour. But let's just say, for example, that change, you wanted to do a 4 hour cycle, 4 hour hike, something along the lines. You're looking more along the lines of porridge then, something like that. That slow release, that longer energy burst of, that longer slow release of energy rather than a faster, sharper boost. So that all comes into it. Every time I'm going to be giving you guys samples, I'm going to be showing you why that is the case. I'm going to show you what type of foods and how you can tell and how you can identify the foods to do that. Post-workout is what we discussed. It's replenishment, recovery, and just think about it from the perspective of if you're coming in here and you're working so hard, one little small change can nearly double your effort. It's just one small change. That's all it takes. And get consistent with it, make it a habit, add it into your routine, and your results will obviously improve from there. So next, move on to the smaller elements of it, but we have hydration. So hydration is vital. Everybody probably knows that, but improved mood, less headaches, you've got better function. Your muscles can function better when they're hydrated. Your body is made up predominantly water. If we don't have enough, it's going to struggle. So making sure you're properly hydrated is a small task, but it's something that a lot of people do forget. So getting into the habit, 2 to 3 liters per day. If you guys are in here sweating all the time, you're going to need to get closer to 3 liters. Obviously, if you're not training, it's a little bit different. So I would push closer to the 3 liters. On that, don't just go from like nothing to having like a liter in the morning, a liter at lunch, a liter because you're going to be going to the toilet quite a lot, in smaller bursts if you can. And ideally, just get yourself a bottle that's 500 milliliters, fill it up 6 times a day. You know, you're sorted. Or if you want to get one of the bigger ones, whatever way, just make an effort on it. I'm going to put reminders on the app. So on the app that you guys are using for your workouts, I can put reminders on it. So what you're going to get every day is hydration. So that'll pop up on your screen. You'll have to tick it if you've done it. If not done it, don't tick it. Then I can see, right, well, your training is going well, but your hydration, you've got 1 out of 12 days. I can obviously see an issue that we can improve quite easily, and it's free. So next is supplements. So you don't need any supplements. You'll always be pushed supplements. You'll always be told you need X, Y, and Z. You don't. Use supplements as an enhancement. They're there to help. They're not there to replace. If your diet isn't getting key supplements, you look and try and address it first in the diet, then with supplements. But there's an exception for creatine. So creatine is like a super drug. It's like the best supplement you can take. It's basically the most researched supplement in the world. Outside of the gym, it improves brain health and heart health. It's insane what the benefits of creatine and what they're finding in more recent studies. In 2023, they had a look at it and it improved cognitive function, improved intelligence, improved working memory. It also found that it was showing preventative measures against Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. Now, it's not going to stop these things, but it's showing that it can help in aiding and prolonging it. Then in heart health, so with heart health, you've seen that the studies, a lot of them are done on people who are suffering from heart failure, but it's increasing their heart's endurance and their ability to withstand endurance after heart attacks. It's also improving your body's ability to improve your heart's function. So creatine outside of weightlifting and training is already a massive plus. In your weight training, it's going to improve your strength, it's going to improve your power, and it's going to improve your recovery. So creatine is basically, your body will produce it naturally. So for example, if you guys are doing a test week and you're doing 2 rep maxes, creatine is basically like it's basically, think of it as really, really high value energy, but it's in such small demand. So if I'm doing a 2 rep max, that's when I'll see it. A sprinter, when I'm sprinting for a very short period of time, it's very expendable. It doesn't last long. But if we supplement it, we get more of it, and that gives us enhanced performance. With enhanced performance becomes better results in here, which means you're pushing harder, meaning your muscle responds better. The only thing to note with creatine is creatine binds with water in your muscle, so it will increase your body weight. That is not a bad thing at all. All it's doing is adding more water to your body. So if, for example, you do start taking it, ask me and I'll help you with it, and I'll structure it into and kind of help you out with it. But with your weight going up from creatine, it's not going to be enough that, let's say, for example, if your objective is to lose weight and you start taking creatine, it's not going to plateau you. It's just an objective that might slow it down for a week or two, and then the process goes on. And you can take creatine year round, all the time. Excellent supplement. Now, very, very, very rarely, I've been getting so many clients have had to take this. It seems to happen more in girls than guys, but sometimes it can cause bloating. So the amount you need to take is like 2 grams a day. So if the powder causes bloating, you can just let me know. It's, again, very rare, but you can then take it in tablet form. And if you want, then you can also break up the dose to 1 gram in the morning, gram in the evening, but try have it with food as well before, if it does cause bloating. But again, very rare. The next ones are vitamins and minerals. You don't need to be taking a multivitamin if it's not necessary. But if we assess your diet and you're lacking in all the vitamins, and I've tried to help you and we've pushed it and you're just finding it too difficult to manage, then you're better having it than not having it. But ideally, we balance out the diet and get as much in as possible. You won't be able to get everything in. Like, nobody's gonna get a perfect diet. But let's say, for example, you've got all of them and you're just missing vitamin A. Rather than getting a multivitamin, we can just get vitamin A. If you consistently don't like foods with vitamin A in it, then we can boost that way. And then minerals is your iron. So again, if we really don't like red meat and we can't structure it into the diet, it's finding hard with the calories, you're better off supplementing it and having it than obviously being lower on it. So again, but any supplements before you buy, come to me, because a lot of the time it's a waste of money. So just do come and say to me and I'll be able to help you out. So lastly, then, we're looking at building sustainable habits. So extremes are short-term and unsustainable. So anybody who's ever tried to lose weight will always say, I tried X, Y, Z, lost weight, put it all back on, or I tried for 2 weeks and I failed. It's because it's not sustainable. It's not something you're able to do long-term. If I'm asking you to sacrifice a couple of calories to get your end results a lot of the time, if you're trying to go the extreme on that, if you can't do it for longer than a week, what is your hope for the rest of your life? You're trying to build habits that you can sustain. So even when the goal changes, if you get to the weight that you're happy with and then we want to maintain it, the objective in terms of our calories is just slightly increase it to the point and find what balances it out. We're looking at building long term here. Try not think of it as, oh, like I seen this diet online and this person lost 5 kilos in 6 weeks, but they don't understand the principles of how to build up the nutritional profile. They don't understand how to fuel themselves, what the foods do. So what ends up happening is they go back to old habits, cycle repeats. So metrics for assessment, guidance, and accountability. If we don't have metrics, we're guessing. Guessing does not get long-term sustainable results. Guessing does not get the same quality of results. And it's just a waste of time. So why waste your time to do something very simple? Taking your weight takes less than 30 seconds. Taking your measurements takes less than 2 minutes. Taking progress pictures takes less than 3-4 minutes. And that's every now and again. It's just small amount of time, but do it and stay accountable to it. And the key thing here is we're working a 6-week block. I want you to say, I'm prioritizing the 6-week block. I'm going to execute this really well. And after that, if you find you can continue going, I'll recommend to do so. If I find that you're struggling with it, we can then go to maintenance. You're far better off. You're not going to reach your end goal in 6 weeks, but you're far better off making whatever progress you can. And then we sustain it and we learn how to maintain it. And then you tackle it again when you're ready. If you get a really busy social calendar and you're finding it really hard to maintain, then just say, right, okay, I'm not going to make progress in this zone. I'm just making sure I'm not going to lose the progress I've just worked for 6 weeks to get. So the key thing is that we sustain what we do. And then understanding why. So the whole point of it is to make sure you guys understand exactly why we're doing what we're doing. Because again, if you know why you're doing it, you're far more inclined to do it. And then the more you know, the more you can experiment. So rather than me, I'm a very basic eater. I will eat the same thing all the time. I don't expect you to do that. If you're not somebody that wants to do that, then you can start to experiment with different foods. If I can teach you why you eat certain foods, you can then play around with this and go from there. If you're somebody that likes to cook, experiment with your food, key thing is if you understand why you're eating things and how you're going to do it, that's going to be a big element for you. So that is all. If you guys have any questions, now I know it's always a bit awkward for people to ask questions, a bit shy, but don't be afraid to ask. There's no stupid questions. If you are going to ask it, most likely somebody else is thinking about it. So do ask. There is about 12 to 14 of you here. There's 26 people all in on this. So we're all going to be added to a WhatsApp group. That goes to the WhatsApp group as well. If you have a question, if you're trying to eat something, if you can't figure something out, put it into the WhatsApp group. Don't text me privately for 2 reasons. It's better because if you're going to ask that question, there's 26 of you. Somebody else is probably going to ask me that question, but also somebody may not want to ask me. They might feel embarrassed to ask the question. So if you ask it for them and put it into the group, the better it helps everybody. So ask questions in the group. Ask me questions now if you have any. But the more we put in there, the better. If you find a recipe that you think is really nice, put it into the group. Somebody might try it. I probably won't. But if somebody does want to try it, you can give it a go. But share as much as possible. It'll help each other. So I'm going to email you out the bits from this, and I'm going to get you all ready to go. So I need you to get the bits ready before Monday. So I want you all ready to go on Monday. And then that'll be when the first video, I'm going to put in a video on the first education point, what we're focusing on for week 1. Every week the process will repeat. I'll give you a video on the Monday, and I just need you to continually do what the email says. Cool? Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah. 2 questions. Can you remind me the timing for the pre-workout meal? The second question is, I've been reading conflicting guidance regarding eggs.
Yeah.
Is it okay to eat 2 eggs or more each day?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's been times where I've had about 4 or 5 eggs a day for like weeks straight. Like if I just get into the habit of eating omelets and stuff. So the reason why people will say eggs are bad to your cholesterol or certain vitamins, eggs are one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, but also there's good cholesterol in eggs. So there's a difference between good and bad cholesterol. So the amount you'd have to eat, you'd want to be eating like 20, 30 eggs on the go, like constantly for it to actually have that effect. So what tends to happen is like it's like do you ever hear people say it about like Coke Zero and all of a sudden they say, oh, it's bad for you, it contains things that can give you cancer, but you'd want to be eating drinking like 100 cans a day. Like it's the amount isn't anywhere near enough to cause the issue. So eggs are perfectly fine and definitely eat as much of them as possible. In terms of the pre-workout food, so let's say, for example, if an hour before the gym, you want something simple carbohydrate wise, so something that's easy digestible and gets into your system quick. So again, Greek yogurt is a probiotic, or it basically will obviously get into your system a little bit quicker, but fruit again is simple to break down. It's single molecule. So if you had like an apple an hour before, it gives your body enough time to digest it and get into the system. So let's say if you eat the apple out in the car park and then walk in here, your body hasn't even started digesting that. There's no way it's even readily available. So kind of think of it as an hour before, use the right time to digest it and then provide it to your muscles to go from there. But it'll depend on the pre-workout timing. If you were eating 2 hours before, 3 hours before, it all changes. So that's when that week comes, I'll put in exactly what you guys can trial with, and then you'll always ask, will this work, will that work? And then I can give you time zones on them and go from there. Good. No worries. Anybody else? Are you okay? No questions? Okay, perfect. So if you don't feel 100% comfortable asking me the question now, you can hang around. I'll be here for the next while anyway, so I'm going to be doing the next session, and a few of you guys are as well. But the key thing is communication. Do use the lads as well. So Sean, Adam, and Dan, they're all going to be clued in on this. I'm sitting down with them tomorrow to do this exact same thing with them. They already know a lot of the information as well, but they're going to be helping you. So if you don't directly see me all the time, ask them. But like we're saying, ask for help. If you don't ask for help, it's going to be a lot harder to help you. There's always a solution. And if you're struggling, don't be ashamed. Don't just leg it and go from nothing to zero. There's always a route back, and there's always something you can do. And like I was saying with that grading system, don't go from an A student to an F. You can go to a B to a C and then come back up again. Cool? Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you guys soon.